Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, May 18th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. From San Diego to cities around the world, millions are watching the violence being played out right now in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in the Gaza Strip, and locally, those supporting both sides have taken to the streets to demonstrate. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer is live at the federal building where a rally is being held by the Palestinian Youth Movement. Jacob.
Thanks, Maya. Yeah, this rally began about an hour ago, and it's now roughly 350 people. And we've seen other types of rallies like this around San Diego locally. Some 300 demonstrated Thursday for Israel outside the Jewish Family Center in La Jolla, and then 700 more on Saturday in support of Palestinians in Balboa Park. They're here in response to what is now 9 days of violence with no end in sight right now. Earlier today, I spoke with SDSU professor of political science, Fareed Abdel-Noor, who is of Palestinian descent and grew up in the West Bank. He attended the Saturday rally in solidarity with Palestine.
Living in the United States makes one tied to the region because the United States is a party to this conflict. It is not an observer to this conflict.
As Israel continued to trade airstrikes with rockets fired from Gaza on Tuesday, the United Nations said more than 52,000 Palestinians are considered internally displaced, and there's a severe shortage of medical supplies. Abdel-Noor says the civilian injuries and death toll has been crushing.
There has been a pretty horrendous death toll in the last 8 days. On the Israeli side, 12 lives have been lost. On the Palestinian side, 232 lives have been lost.
Abdel-Noor says the violence in the region is the worst since the 2014 Gaza war, and while not as long-lasting at this point, so far this conflict has been more intense.
The most direct effect is the sense of being terrified that any moment a rocket might land, and that's been terrifying, of course, for Israeli civilians. For Palestinian civilians in Gaza, it is also the fear and the terror of having bombs dropped on you.
While world leaders are now overwhelmingly calling for a ceasefire, including President Biden, the two sides have not been able to come to terms yet. Reporting live from downtown San Diego, Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And we have some breaking news involving a gas leak that forced evacuations in National City. Crews are still on scene in the 3400 block of East 8th Street. A cable laying project ruptured a gas pipeline this afternoon, forcing a primary school, a strip mall, and dozens of homes to be evacuated. A temporary shelter is at the Camacho Rec Center on East 22nd. And some more breaking news. Mayor Todd Gloria has just released the May revision to his proposed city budget. It includes funding for libraries to be reopened 7 days a week, the second phase of the city's pay equity study, and salary increases for most city employees in order to compete with other local agencies. Other key proposals from the April version remain, including $10 million for street repairs, another $10 million to tackle homelessness, and investing $5 million into the new Climate Equity Fund. Friendship Park, the binational garden straddling the border between San Diego and Tijuana, is poised to celebrate its 50th anniversary this summer. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us those celebrations might be dimmed by the fact that for more than a year, the park has not been open to the public.
Friendship Park and the binational circle that's a part of it has been a meeting place for families separated by a border wall that has only grown higher and longer in recent years. Advocates say it's a vital space for reunions and healing, and one that hasn't been open to the public during one of the most tumultuous times in recent history.
For over a year, Borderfield State Park has been closed.
one of the several state parks that were closed during the coronavirus pandemic. Over the last few weeks, however, the park has reopened. Friendship Circle, which is within Borderfield State Park, has not. Border Patrol, which controls access to the park, has not opened the gate on the American side to allow people to go into the circle and see their family members or friends. They had told advocates that Friendship Park would reopen for 8 hours every weekend, once people could once again access it through the state park. Robert Vivar is with Friends of Friendship Park.
In a meeting a few days prior to this past Sunday, we were informed that that because of staffing purposes, that the park would remain closed until further notice, which of course, is something that we're not very happy about.
In a statement, Customs and Border Protection said because of the influx of migrants on the southern border, it cannot staff the park, and that it cannot reopen Friendship Circle until it has sufficient manpower to ensure it is safe for everyone. Vivar thinks that reasoning doesn't quite hold up. There are already several Border Patrol agents posted up at the site regularly on weekends, and he doesn't believe letting a few dozen people into the park would require extra staffing. He believes that with the rise in Mexican citizens trying to get into the U.S. through the desert or on boats, Friendship Park could act as needed relief for people who are hard-pressed to reunite with their families. Vivar himself was deported and came to Friendship Park on the Mexican side for refuge and comfort.
People get desperate for their families, and they'll do anything and even risk their life to be able to be with their family.
Supporters of the park hope it can reopen as quickly as possible, and definitely in time for the park's 50th anniversary this August. Max Rivlin-Adler, KPBS News.
The push is on to get all San Diegans vaccinated before the state fully reopens in 4 weeks. Today at Mira Mesa High School, a pop-up event targeting students, their families, and community members was held. It's part of an effort to make vaccines easier to get, especially for young people. More than 45,000 San Diegans 19 and under have tested positive for COVID-19 since the pandemic began, but getting shots to minors has been slow going. And while generally demand has been falling, today officials expected to do well, over 500 vaccinations just at this site.
To offer this service for our students, I think, is amazing. As soon as they contacted us and asked us if we would like to be a site, we jumped on it right away. Because again, it's such a really cool opportunity to start to try to get back to normal, right? To get to that place where, we're all feeling comfortable to come back to school as it really should be, as it's intended to be. So we're fired up to see what next year is going to bring because of opportunities like this here today.
Students will be back in a few weeks to get the second dose, and right now minors can only get the Pfizer vaccine. And while these school sites allow parents to sign permission slips, many community sites require parents to be with their kids for their shots. A reminder, if you want to set up a vaccination appointment for yourself or for an eligible family member, you can find a location close to you by going to our website, kpbs.org, and clicking on the vaccines link on our homepage. A boost to local businesses having to rely on outdoor space to provide services. The San Diego City Council today voted to extend an ordinance allowing for outdoor sidewalk and private parking lot business operations. The extension will now last through July 13, 2022. A Spaces as Places plan that's in development would extend outdoor dining well beyond the pandemic. Annual inspections of California's 1,100 nursing homes have resumed after a pandemic-induced year-long hiatus. KPBS's Amita Sharma says anecdotal evidence suggests the inspectors have much work to do as they re-enter facilities.
Conditions in many facilities across the state have grown incredibly dire over the course of the pandemic, and if anything, are as bad as they've ever been right now.
Advocates say a reason for this is family members of nursing home residents were not allowed in the facilities for more than a year. They've long served as watchdogs for neglect and abuse and as caregivers. Mike Dark of California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform says the absence of family members along with staffing shortages means problems that might have been flagged quickly were allowed to fester.
There's not enough staff to make sure people are clean and bathed. There's not enough staff to make sure people aren't developing bed sores. These are problems that have spread across the state, and it's going to take a long time for Cal DPH to really get on top of this problem.
In an emailed statement, the California Department of Public Health said during the past year it still sent inspectors to investigate the most severe complaints. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
Medical staff at Donovan State Prison have been asking inmates who decline COVID-19 tests to waive the prison of responsibility for their illness or their death. iNewsSource investigative reporter Jill Castellano has the story.
iNewsSource obtained a copy of the waiver being handed out to inmates at the Otay Mesa prison. It says the Corrections Department is free from any responsibility for complications resulting from COVID-19. Legal and medical experts who reviewed a copy of the form viewed it as unethical and deceptive. UC Hastings law professor Hadar Aviram says asking inmates to sign the waiver may be unconstitutional.
You are housing them for a certain number of months or years, and during those months, you have to feed and clothe and take care of them and make sure that they don't get sick. This is part of your responsibility.
Plus, a medical expert we spoke with at UC San Francisco questioned whether incarcerated people would understand the consequences of signing the form. Donovan prisoners have high rates of developmental disabilities and severe mental illness that could make the form hard to comprehend. A spokesperson for the prison's healthcare system said the form is used when inmates decline all kinds of medical procedures, but she wouldn't say whether other California prisons are also using the form for COVID-19 testing. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Jill Castellano.
And the story was co-reported by Mary Plummer at iNewsSource, an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. A congressional investigation into the January 6th attack on the Capitol has hit a roadblock. Today, the top Republican in the House announced opposition to a bipartisan agreement for an independent commission. As Camila Bernal reports, he's demanding the commission also investigate Antifa and other riots across the country.
Despite bipartisan support, House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy is opposing an investigation on the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
You better run, cops!
McCarthy's opposition comes ahead of a House vote to create the panel which would investigate the incident. And it signals that the top Republican is siding with those trying to downplay the situation.
The question that comes to mind is this: what about all the riots that happened during the summer of 2020 after the death of George Floyd?
But at the other end of the Republican spectrum, ousted GOP conference chair Representative Liz Cheney, who wants this investigation to only include the attack on January 6th. She also said that if a commission is created, McCarthy should provide information.
I think that there are some things that have to be bigger than party, that have to be bigger than partisanship. Our oath to the Constitution is one of those.
McCarthy's opposition likely not stopping the measure in the House, which is scheduled to vote Wednesday. It could, though, jeopardize it when it goes to the Senate, where 60 votes would be needed.
This shows how difficult it is to negotiate with Republicans. If the Republican leaders are just going to throw their lead negotiators under the bus, why do they even participate in negotiations at all?
Camila Bernal, KPBS News.
More than 30 million people are dealing with flash flood watches in 4 states. One of the worst areas, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, underwater. At least one person died there, with more than 80 high water rescues. Many evacuees have been left homeless, and a state of emergency has also been declared. Forecasters are predicting even more rain.
Temperatures are going to be cooling off once again as we push into the later part of the work week, but at least for now we have some bright and sunny afternoons to look forward to. Again, temperatures are going to be dropping off quite dramatically by the time we get towards the end of the work week, and heading into the weekend we'll start to rebound. We're pretty nice and dry and quiet down here in much of southwestern California, but we do have some wind advisories just off to our north, with winds potentially gusting up to 50 miles per hour at times. Temperatures Temperatures tonight dropping off into the low 60s in the metro with some fog developing late during the overnight period into the early morning hours. Temperatures elsewhere dropping off into the upper 50s to low 60s right near the coast, dropping down to 55 in Escondido. Ramona dropping off to 51 degrees for that overnight low. Now you'll start to see that push of cooler air Wednesday into the northern portions of the state of California, but we'll still stay nice and toasty here in southern portions of California for Wednesday. Temperatures getting back up into the low 70s near the coast, a little bit warmer further inland with low 80s on the board. And of course, the heat is on once again out into the mountains and into the desert. Temperatures are going to drop off already. You'll start to notice a cool down as we head into Thursday with this cold front just sliding southward. We're likely going to stay dry, but some showers will likely be up into portions of Nevada, but it doesn't look like we're going to get in on any real significant rain here in southern portions of the Golden State. Near the coast, you won't notice a whole lot of change here. Temperatures generally sitting in the upper 60s to low 70s for most of the week. A couple of low-hanging clouds, though, could develop later in the week, especially during the afternoon. Further inland, temperatures drop off from about 80 degrees on your Wednesday into the upper 60s by the time we get to Friday, and then we rebound through the weekend. In the mountains, we go from the mid to upper 60s to the 40s by the time we get to Friday, and a pretty dramatic change in the desert as well, where we drop off from the upper 90s on Wednesday into the 70s by the time we get to Friday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
San Diego Biotech is one step closer to developing a vaccine to protect against all COVID-19 variants. Inovio Pharmaceuticals is working on a pan-coronavirus vaccine to protect against current and future strains of the virus. Scientists came up with it by combining information from thousands of coronavirus sequences from 9 countries.
Kind of combined it together using a computer algorithm to design a synthetic version of the virus spike protein. So it doesn't actually exist in nature, but what we hope it does do is kind of protect from the variants that we know about.
The idea is that it could act as a booster shot to the immunity that you already have from another COVID vaccine. So far, testing has only been done on mice and hamsters. The company hopes to start clinical trials on humans this summer. And the CDC says those who are fully vaccinated can now go mask-free in most places with some exceptions. But as Mandy Gaither reports, some people are concerned about the impact that new guidance will have on the youngest Americans.
For the fully vaccinated, it means mask freedom.
Personally, myself, I feel comfortable, but I understand that some people might not feel comfortable.
The CDC's mask guidance updated last week has led more local governments and businesses to relax mask mandates.
I am concerned about with the impact of this on our children and on those who just cannot be vaccinated yet.
There's no way to tell whether an unmasked person is fully vaccinated.
The science is the science, but we have to factor in human behavior.
And some health experts have concerns about kids under 12 who aren't eligible to receive the vaccine yet.
Am I going to be bringing my kids now into a Starbucks? Probably not, because I don't want them who are unvaccinated to be surrounded by a bunch of unvaccinated, unmasked people who are breathing on them.
With more adults getting vaccinated, the CDC says children and teens are starting to make up a greater proportion of new COVID-19 cases. And with less than 40% of Americans fully vaccinated, some are urging parents to keep their children masked in public.
It's just the best guidance and advice that you can give to people, not knowing who in the room is protected and who is not.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Summer camps across the country are getting ready to reopen. They are taking extra precautions with the pandemic in mind. Biana Golodriga reports on some of the safety measures being put into place.
There's a lot of excitement. I think that camp is the light at the end of a very long tunnel.
Across the country, summer camps are in their final stages of preparation, just weeks before millions of children arrive for fun. Ready to resume the color wars, ziplining, and evening campfires they missed last year when most camps were closed due to the pandemic.
It was absolutely heartbreaking. It's the toughest decision that my husband and I have ever had to make.
At Camp IHC in northern Pennsylvania, Camp Director Lauren Rutkowski is anticipating full cabins this summer, with some 650 campers registered for up to 7 weeks.
Camp is going to serve as an incredible elixir for kids. Like, they need this recovery space.
Strict mitigation strategies will be enforced.
We'll be at a reduced capacity. You can see some of the plexiglass that we've had to install to make sure that we're doing things safely.
All campers must be tested prior to arrival and after. They will then be grouped into a smaller cohort for the first week.
Really sticking with your pod. There'll be a lot more mask wearing. We won't be mixing groups. Once we get through that, however, because we are a very controlled environment, you can really start to relax, the mitigation.
Also back this summer, the why.
Enrollment at most camps is at capacity.
Thousands of day and overnight camps run by the YMCA, like Camp Widjiwagan outside of Nashville, are also fully booked.
The need for the kids to be outside is tremendous. We want a social connect now, not social distant.
With multiple camps running together, advanced testing will not be part of their policy.
We know that we can't have a full bubble containment here. With the size of our day camp and our overnight camp, it's just not possible.
Instead, they're taking precautions like smaller bleachers, sanitizing stations, and a reimagined bunk.
We added ceiling fans. We upgraded the filter system to MERV 13 filters, and then we still added air scrubbers. We painted the cabin in antibacterial paint, and then my personal favorite is we added sneeze and cough guards to all of the bunk beds.
Both IHC and Widjiwagan are also eliminating off-campus field trips and family visiting this summer. Prior to last year, a typical summer saw roughly 26 million kids attend some form of summer camp, according to the American Camp Association. Camp directors are expecting to see similar numbers once again this summer.
What are you planning to do to help get them settled back in here?
We have to prepare our children for the camp experience. It's when things are sprung upon them or something feels unfamiliar, that's when anxieties start to rise.
All of the staff will receive some levels of mental health awareness, things to watch for in a child that will be beyond what would have been in the past.
So while some things may still look different this summer, the goal is ultimately to let kids be kids again.
Kids laughing, playing, enjoying their life and being carefree. It's the best sound in the world.
That was Biana Goladriga reporting. The CDC plans to update its summer camp guidance soon. Starting tonight, KPBS is proud to once again present the GI Film Festival San Diego, which kicks off today. The 6-day festival is virtual this year. As KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us, it features a record 38 films.
May is Military Appreciation Month, and the GI Film Festival San Diego honors the stories of service members and veterans through film. Keisha Javis-Jones is an advisory committee member of the festival. She is a Marine combat veteran and loves spreading awareness of this festival.
Even after serving 10 years, was not one to want to talk to anyone else about what I did or how I served, or especially combat experience. It was very hard to talk about in the very beginning, and this festival brings it to life, without putting me in a vulnerable space.
The festival serves as a bonding experience.
So it's a great opportunity to bring veterans and service members now together, and then just celebrate our sacrifices and bond over just sharing each other's stories and supporting each other in everything that you're doing now.
Pacifica J. Sauer is a U.S. Navy veteran and the director of the film's opening night film, The Invisible Project.
Women are the most visible service member and the most invisible veteran. And what a perfect place to tell women veterans stories than with an audience that already cares.
The film is a documentary-style infodrama.
Some of the issues women face are devastatingly scary, and some of the traumas women have endured are heartbreaking. But it's very uplifting when you see them persevere.
The Navy veteran has a message for her fellow female vets.
And all the women veterans out there, you are not invisible. Your life is worth it. Your service was worth it, no matter how long ago it was.
The GI Film Festival San Diego has something for everyone. Current military, veterans, and civilians can all expect to experience some uncomfortable truths and triumphant highs. Although the festival is virtual this year, all participants and viewers can expect to be united through the awareness that those who served and those who are serving make the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Melissa May, KPBS News.
The GI Film Festival runs through May 23rd. For more information, go to gifilmfestivalsd.org.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, calls for a ceasefire are ignored and destruction spreads as Palestinian rocket fire and Israeli artillery attacks continue. Coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's another look at today's top stories. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict continues to bring violence to the Gaza Strip, and San Diegans supporting both sides have taken to the streets to demonstrate. Right now, a pro-Palestinian rally is happening outside of the federal building downtown. It follows another march in Balboa Park on Saturday and a rally for Israel in La Jolla last Thursday. Friendship Park, the binational garden between San Diego and Tijuana, is still closed amid the pandemic. The park is poised to celebrate its 50th anniversary this summer, but there is no timeline on when it will reopen. Customs and Border Protection said because of the influx of migrants along the border, it cannot staff the park. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.